Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning meeting with the faculty. My name is Johanna Erlandsson. I'm head of communications at the faculty. Today we will be hearing about the new research infrastructure organization. With us today is Deputy Dean Jonas Larsson and the newly appointed director for the CRI, Marcus Heidenblad. I would just like to say before we start that at the end of the meeting there will be a short Q&A session. If you have any questions for Jonas or Marcus, you can write them in the chat and I will help ask them of Jonas and Marcus. If you want to write in Swedish, that's okay. I can try and translate as we go. So I hand over to Jonas.
Thank you, Johanna, and good morning, everyone. I will start to share my presentation. Just a minute here. Oh, I hope you can see my screen okay now.
Yes, fine.
Perfect. So, yes, this is a really exciting time for us to tell you about a new organization at the faculty that we have been working on for a couple of years now. And the name of the organization is Center for Research Infrastructure in Health and Life Sciences. And I will begin to give you a little bit of background to why we have formed this and what sort of the rationale is and what we're hoping to achieve by this. Just to begin with, if we think a little bit about research infrastructure in general and in medical research, as you know, this is something that's becoming increasingly important. To be able to keep up with modern research and to be competitive, we need state-of-the-art infrastructures, and we need to keep up with the technology developments in many different areas. Here are just some examples of areas where research infrastructure play an important role at the faculty, but there are many more. And we have today around 50 different infrastructures in Lucris, for example, at the faculty. Some may be a smaller instrument, and some may be large platforms with multiple staff members serving the infrastructure. So it's a diverse landscape, and we also have sort of a diverse organization for these infrastructures. So many of these are placed at different departments, and we have seen that there is a need and actually opportunity to co-organize some of these to get better synchronized strategies for how they develop and to work better together with strategic questions around the research infrastructure. So just a few things I'd like to point out. As you know, animal facilities listed here also is a very important infrastructure for the faculty. Within this work, we have chosen not to include the animal facility as part of this because it's a very large and complex organization, and we will continue to work on the development of the animal facility separately. So just a few remarks on why we think that this new organization should be established. So like I said, we think there is really opportunity to improve coordination and strategic development of research infrastructure at the faculty. We have heard from both users and the infrastructures themselves that there is a need for clearer governance, better sort of financial planning conditions, and also better communication and support with the faculty leadership. Overall, we think that a common organization could really improve visibility. It could help us be more visible, both towards internal users, but also external users and other stakeholders that are important for the development of our infrastructures. And we also think that co-organizing this would enable us to give increased support to attract external funding and also allow us to better coordinate with the large national, international networks around infrastructure and consortia that are being developed. Because this is fast-moving developments that happen both nationally and internationally, and we need to be there and present in these developments. So by, again, creating a common organization where we can strategically work as a faculty with these questions, we think there is a large benefit of that. So the process leading up to this new organization is such that we appointed a working group in March last year, headed by Kajsa Paulsson, our infrastructure coordinator at the faculty. This working group then talked to both users and the infrastructures and proposed a model for a new organizational structure that would bring together the essential infrastructures at the faculty in one unit. And this group then reported the assignment to the dean on November 30 last year, so about a year ago. And since then, the faculty management has continued to analyze and work with this report and this suggestion, and to some degree developed and concretized it a bit, and together with also the faculty board, developed a proposal that I will describe here. So what are the main principles for this new organization? So essentially what we are achieving is bringing together our key infrastructures within a single entity. And the working name for this was initially the seventh department. So this would be a department-like structure in a way. And but not a department as such, because our departments have a collegial management and so on, and that will be slightly different in this case. But at the level of the faculty, this organization will be placed in parallel with other departments, so at that same level. The concept is also to initially start from a limited number of well-established infrastructures to include in this organization. And a strong focus is to leverage existing resources and make sure that we can coordinate optimally when we implement this organization, not to make it very costly, but rather make sure that we use the existing administrative support, etc., in this new organization. And of course, a strong focus is to, through this organization, create strong support functions in technology, data management, etc., that would support the organization and the infrastructures. So I'm going to show you now a scheme of the organization for the Center for Research Infrastructure. And I'll go through this to just give you a little bit of an idea how we see that this would work. Overall, the overarching governing body as for the entire faculty is the faculty board. Then we have implemented a new board for research infrastructure that will be the governing board of this new organization. The organization, CRI, will then be led by a director who will have a management council to discuss strategic issues within the organization. And there will be administrative support, both in sort of the classical form of a department-like administrative support, but also in the on the left here, a technical and scientific support unit that will be, I think, very critical to support with both data management, grant management, etc., for the research infrastructures. The administrative support on the right-hand side, the more classical department support, will be carried out in collaboration with an existing department, so Department of Laboratory Medicine, to make this as cost-effective and efficient as possible. And this is also mirrored at other departments, for example, our departments in Malmö, today have a joint administrative office. So this has worked well in other department structures as well. So we think this will be very efficient and also allow for a strong support functions in both economy, HR, and management in HMS, etc. So initially, the infrastructures that will be included in the organization are listed below. These are some of our larger and established infrastructures since some time. We have the SciLife Lab site at Lund, which is not an infrastructure as such, but is the sort of coordinating network by which we communicate and leverage the national SciLife Lab infrastructure. BioMS in proteomics, CTG in genomics, and LBIC in imaging are other well-established large infrastructures that will be part of this. And the idea is then to subsequently include additional well-established infrastructures over time. But initially, we will start from a lower number as indicated here. On the right-hand side, you can also see WCMM, the Wallenberg Center of Molecular Medicine. This organization is not an infrastructure, but it's a network, a career network funded by the Wallenberg Foundation, but has strong ties to the SciLife Lab organization and was previously embedded within LBIC, and we are now lifting this out in parallel to the other structures here to give more visibility and also a more optimal organizational placement. But this WCMM will have sort of a separate management principle and is not an infrastructure per se, but will be part of this organization. So what about the implementation? What has happened? So in June this year, we had a decision at the faculty board to establish the center, the CRI, and again to initially include LBIC, CTG, BioMS, and the SciLife Lab Lund and WCMM entities within the organization. There was also a decision and appointment of the board for CRI, and finally, the faculty board also recommended that the MORE lab, the Movement and Reality Lab, should also be included as an infrastructure within CRI. And this will formally be decided on October 22. Then Marcus Heidenblad, who is here, was appointed as director for CRI from October 1st. And we are now working very actively with all the formalities and management rules, etc., to be able to formally transfer all the research infrastructures listed here to CRI on January 1st in 2026. So we are really excited about this new development. We think that the common organization will really leverage these infrastructures. We will be able to coordinate and collaborate together and be more efficient, but also more strategic in how we finance and visualize our infrastructures both internally and externally, as mentioned before. So I think I will not say too much more, but rather hand over to Marcus, who will give a few remarks about where he comes from and what he thinks about leading this new organization. So with that, I'll end and hand it over to you, Marcus.
Sorry, do you see my?
Yes, it works.
Okay, perfect. So great. Thank you very much, Jonas, and good morning to all of you. So this is all still quite new, as you heard. So I was appointed 2 weeks ago. So this will more be some early reflections from my side about this new fantastic opportunity as I see it. I'm currently, I'm the newly appointed director for CRI, but also the director for SciLife Lab Lund activities. As Jonas mentioned, I also have activities or engagement in one of the other additional platforms within this initiative. So very brief background about myself for those of you who don't know me. So I'm from Lund originally, where I also got my master's in molecular biology, have a PhD in cancer genomics here at the faculty Department of Clinical Genetics. I've also have some experiences of postdocs and international postdocs, also from the industry. So I have that perspective as well. However, the past 15 to 20 years, I've mainly been working in different leadership or management roles, either within the regional healthcare, so Region Skåne, or the medical faculty. So it feels I'm super excited about this opportunity to see how we can build something stronger together. My experience from Region Skåne comes mainly from laboratory medicine, where I've been engaged in biobanking initiatives, building up a large-scale sequencing facility, molecular diagnostics. I'm still very much engaged in integrated initiatives between the faculty and Region Skåne. For instance, the genomic and the precision medicine centers. Today, as said, I'm leading SciLife Lab Lund activities, and I'm also engaged in one of having commitments in one of the technical platforms. I think for this appointment, the most relevant experience is SciLife Lab Lund, which is kind of an umbrella, as Jonas said, mainly for life science focused infrastructures, where we have several included now initially, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing additional emerging infrastructures that could be more perhaps in databases, cohorts from the health side of our faculty. So I will not go too much since this again it's very new. So I will focus on the two main stakeholders as I see with this organizational change. One is of course the research infrastructures that are very much influenced in as I see it in a positive way. So what I see will be key activities initially will be to further learn from and get to know the included infrastructures and additional ones that might be included in the future. To get to know the leaders, the staff, and so on. And this is something that within the collaborative framework that we have already established, this is something where we have already started some initiatives. So on the bottom left-hand side is a meeting where we organized from laboratory-oriented infrastructures within SciLife Lab last year, where we had a lot of different ideas on how to collaborate between in these both operative and strategic questions from the infrastructure side. Then if we look at it from the other perspective, the main perspective, I would say, since the infrastructures are there to support and enable top-level research. So what I hope to achieve with this, together with all the colleagues involved, is to build an open dialogue with the research communities that we have within our faculty. I think this can be at many different levels. It can be here, I just exemplified with the department and SFO levels. I think that's more from a structural perspective, but I see many opportunities to establish collaborations on multiple levels, also individual PI level with individual infrastructures. So one example again of something to build this integration, which I think will be key, especially now that infrastructures move into a new department or center, is to keep these strong bridges. So we're organizing a meeting next week. Again, it's the second time we have a SciLife Lab Day in Lund, where one of the main sessions is focusing. So we have invited speakers from all the SFOs. We have invited national and local infrastructure leaders to discuss how to build these bridges in the best way. And I very much also look forward to continue collaborating with the platform scientific director. So Johan Malmström for the proteomics facility, Gunilla Westergren Thorsson for the imaging facility, and Thomas Fioretos for the genomics facility. I think the scientific directors will play a key role in ensuring that we have these embedded integrated environments in the future. If we look at other stakeholders, there are many. So I see, obviously, having worked in the healthcare for more than 10 years, I see Region Skåne as a key partner for this initiative. where I again see multiple opportunities in collaborating at several levels, which I think we need to explore and discuss in further detail. As part of the assignment that I've had with SciLife Lab, I've also gotten the chance to collaborate with other life science and partly health-focused faculties within our university, so Faculty of Science, Engineering, Max 4, where I also see that opportunities on how we could collaborate, coordinate activities better to ensure that we use our total resources in the best way possible. Industry collaborations is another important aspect, innovation, incubators, and so on, see how we can connect in the best possible way with those stakeholders. And as Jonas also touched upon, how I think we're relatively good at being part of national initiatives, but from the infrastructural side, not that visible in the international collaborations. I see that as a strategic opportunity. If we look then more in detail from the research infrastructure perspective, so I see many different, again, as said, both operative and strategic questions where we can work smarter together. One would be development projects. Those can be either methodological or technological in their nature. So we have within the three main infrastructures that's included initially, we have collaborations in spatial omics methods, for instance, between the imaging platform and the sequencing platform. We're now building pipelines for single-cell proteomics, where genomics and proteomics are already collaborating. So that's one area. One could also see infrastructural joint projects. So that could be establishing joint, could be order portals, IT support systems. It could be automation within the laboratories so that we can learn from each other, maybe coordinate functions and positions in the future to work, again, smarter together. Data management is becoming increasingly challenging, I think, for all of us. So establishing harmonized routines. So we ensure from the infrastructure perspective that we support the researchers in the best way possible to store and eventually share the data, so ensure that there are metadata standards, routines in place which facilitate the downstream data management for the researchers. I think that's a key area that's super important for all of us, and also ensuring that the data is stored and processed in such a format so that we can apply new tools, AI-based and machine learning-based tools, so to enable that aspect of future research analysis. Communication is always a key activity within all the infrastructures. But there's also a lot of meetings and so on. So I think that's an area where we can maybe coordinate ourselves better, have joint activities. So we have already, again, within the collaborative framework, organized seminar series with several infrastructures presenting. As part of that, we have organizing bigger meetings so that we don't interrupt the everyday life of the researchers or other stakeholders. So maybe coordinate that in a better way, and ensuring that we are more visible from the infrastructural side overall. Education training activities. I think Jonas mentioned that the infrastructures are becoming increasingly important. With new technology, it's very costly, very fast moving. This means that if you compare how it was having doing your PhD 20 or 10 years ago, you did, in my head at least, you did more of the experiments yourself at your own bench. Now you're more dependent on the infrastructure. So I see this is a key activity that we educate and train students and many other stakeholders as well, for that matter, in as the technologies become more and more integrated in infrastructures. And then there are many more opportunities. Some have been lifted in this presentation, some in other constellations. One thing that I'm very happy to say that we have been able to achieve already is that was identified quite early on, is the need for new career development tracks for technical staff. So I'm extremely happy to say that Lund University has now, thanks to a collaboration between the science faculty, the engineering, the medical faculty, and Max 4, there is a decision about 2 new positions at our university. So research, in English, it will be staff scientist and senior staff scientist. In Swedish, forskningsinfrastrukturspecialist and senior. infrastructure specialists. I think that those will be key to attracting and ensuring that we can also keep our retain our most experienced staff. It could be in the future also hiring joint grant managers to become more active on the international arena. It could be, to me, it's not clear whether we are losing some projects due to lack. I'm thinking, for instance, for clinical researchers that might not have the laboratory resources that some other ones, preclinical researchers do. Are we losing projects in pre-analytics because there are challenges in protein purification, DNA, RNA extractions? But also looking at the other side of that spectrum, bioinformatics, is that something where we should engage more in the future, and again, becoming more active on the national and international arena. From the research perspective, easier access to research infrastructure, I think this is a key question, and then you can ask, what is access to you? So one thing is just being aware of what's available. Other things are ensuring that we work as cost effectively, as quickly, with reduced turnaround times and so on. So I think these are questions that we need to address jointly and where we can improve from the infrastructure side. Jonas mentioned how, I mean, having a new department, the CRI, I think I'm sure that this will increase the competitiveness in grant application and recruitments, attracting top talent for the future. What I hope is that the researchers, both at the individual level and at the department or SFO level, feel that they're able to influence the establishment of new technologies. So I'm thinking maybe one could, as they have done at Sahlgrenska Academy in Gothenburg, have a research council, maybe with representatives from the different departments, SFOs, so that there is a saying in all major decisions. That could be one option at the higher level. It could also, I think we can improve a lot at the individual PI level in technology development projects, affiliations with infrastructures from the research side, collaboratives, flagship projects. So I think this can be achieved in many different ways. And of course, with all, I mean, the hectic everyday life for everyone, the more we can coordinate in different activities, it can be infrastructure events, training, and so on. I think the easier everyone's lives will become. So next steps will be, of course, to continue working with the Research Infrastructure Board, getting to know the platform leaders, the staff even more than today, and the users who we are there to support, to define the different priorities and opportunities. And we obviously invite from every level in this. I think from the individual infrastructure, CRI, and so on, every idea you have on how we should think in which opportunities we should engage with and so on. So we're very much welcome feedback and ideas from how we can build this together in the best way. So with that, I think I will stop and hopefully we have a few minutes, maybe, or one for questions.
Yes, thank you, Marcus. We have a couple of questions. So the first one is for you, Jonas. Could you elaborate more on what is meant by creating strong support functions in technology and data management?
Yes, so I think this is one of the key opportunities we have with this organization. For example, data management today is a big challenge for all our infrastructures, and it's quite difficult for each individual infrastructure to develop full support functions within that area. So I think with a joint organization, we can become much more efficient and stronger in developing such support. This is, of course, not an easy task, but it's one of the priorities that we have, and that Marcus and I have discussed also, that it's really something with an acute need for better data management support, but both in terms of hardware and other levels of support. And again, technical support, I think that can be seen more widely, but one important aspect is the scientific support that we have discussed, grant support, how to write better grants to get help with that and so on. It's something that also this organization can really help support. I think what I maybe didn't emphasize enough was also that, of course, the individual infrastructures and platforms are still autonomous units. So they will have their own strategy and their own developments, but this overarching structure can, I think, provide critical support in many ways.
Okay, thank you. We have a few more questions. I'll give it 2 more minutes, so see if we can manage to answer the questions in that time. So I missed a little how will it work with the SFOs and infrastructures placed at the SFOs? Can you elaborate a little on that?
Yeah, I can start. So yes, we do have infrastructures now today that are led and developed by our SFOs. Some are large platforms with, several staff, etc. So that definitely could be interesting to explore whether they might be incorporated in the future. Again, we have started off from a smaller number just to get this going and to make sure that we learn along the way. But of course, the overarching vision is to include more capabilities, and there may very well be opportunities for some of the SFO-led infrastructures to be incorporated here if there is a wish and common view on this.
Okay. So who is in the CRI board? How are they chosen, and will this be a dynamic board or a fixed board?
The board is appointed in such that there is several members from the medical faculty, so teacher representatives from the medical faculty, from several of our departments. Many of these were transitioning from the previous infrastructure board that we had, which had a more limited assignment in a way, not including this organization. We have representatives from both the Faculty of Science and Faculty of Engineering from Region Skåne, and also student representatives, etc. Now the appointment is for 3 years, and this will be then reassigned. So I don't know if that was the question about the dynamics of the board.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay. So there's no more questions, but I'll end with a comment. So and a send off for you two. It will be great to see a centralized inventory of equipment and resources at the Faculty of Medicine. So I hope this can be done. One major obstacle still remains: the high cost of local infrastructures compared to outsourcing. I hope this is really tackled with this. So that could be a good final word.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus and Jonas. And for the rest of us, we'll see you again in November. So see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.